The Institute of Internal Auditors presents All Things Internal Audit Tech. In this episode, Logan Walmsley talks with George Barham about the IIA's newly released Cybersecurity Topical requirement. They discuss what it means for internal auditors, how to prepare for its 2026 effective date, and why CAEs should take action now. The conversation also highlights the companion user guide, Outsourcing Considerations, framework references, and IIA resources available to help internal audit functions conform with confidence.
George, I don't get to see you too often in the office, but it's a pleasure to talk to you today. Thanks for taking some time to chat with me about this. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Logan, it's good to be with you. Thanks for the time.
What I wanted to talk to you about today is kind of one of the most exciting things that we've kind of been having going on at the IIA this year. Of course, we had our release of the new standards, the IPPF, but this year we also are combining that with the release of our topical requirements, which is one of the newest additions that we have to the IPPF. They don't take effect until 2026. But I know there's a lot of discussion going around about the topical requirements that would entail. First one that we've released is on the cybersecurity. Now this first topical requirement has been released and people have some time to digest it and time to read it, analyze it. What are you hearing talked about the most and what you discussed with others?
Yeah, Logan, I guess it was February this year, February 5th is when we released the cybersecurity topical requirement. And before we actually published it, it went through a public comment period. And, we spent some time talking to practitioners across the country and around the globe on what we were trying to do with topical requirements and their intention. And so I think a lot of people had a pretty good understanding of what they would include. And then we also talked about cybersecurity being the first one. So I felt like there was pretty good awareness. But even though there were maybe some people who hadn't heard about it or weren't familiar with the concept, after we released it in February, we did a webinar the very next day, which is available on the IIA still. And continued to follow that process where we provided some background information, some of the history of how we developed them, and then actually walking them through the topical requirements. So most people who I've talked to, the comments we received, found that webinar valuable. As far as answering your question on what we're hearing now that they're out, the biggest thing that I'm hearing is just internal auditors saying that it's best to get started on them now versus waiting till when they're effective. So they're effective a year after publication. So they'll be effective February 5th of 2026. So I think it's the same, understanding with the standards, not to wait until they're effective to start doing your work, but to start reading through, making sure you have a good understanding of what's included in that and just being familiar with it as possible.
Thank you. Yeah. So I know that as part of your job, you talk to members and you get feedback from around since the release. But based on what you're hearing from our members, I know they love to share feedback with you. But what are some of the successful tips that you have heard from chief audit executives as they are working to implement now the cybersecurity topical requirement?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes with what we just talked about as far as not waiting, to go ahead and get started. I think, when it comes to IT audit, cybersecurity, having that skill set, making sure that your internal audit function is positioned well in terms of proficiency and competency to be able to look at some IT controls and IT processes. So I think that has been something that I've heard a lot of people saying, they're making sure that they, have the resources lined up, whether that's internal or maybe an advisor who can help them with this. So I think just, lining up your resources, making sure that you know who's going to be working on this is the key thing. And then also for the people who are doing it in-house, having their internal audit function doing it, depends on your level of skill with IT audit, I guess I would say. So some people are using this as an opportunity to kind of brush up on maybe some of the cybersecurity risks and controls and typical things that you see. So I think probably the biggest thing is just trying to get prepared and just know what you're up against and plan accordingly.
Yeah. On the topic of kind of knowing what you're up against, I think the IIA is aware of this. So in coordination with the release of the topical requirement, we also very proudly released a topical requirement user guide. How do you feel that this new user guide can support internal auditors as they begin their work in conforming to the requirement?
Yeah, that's a great question, Logan. The user guide is really a companion to the topical requirement. So it's written, the approach that we took to write it was written from the standpoint of, define the scope, what we want it to cover, and make sure that it's written in a way that your average internal auditor can understand it. So by that, I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a very elaborate IT audit background. So it's written in a way that I think most internal auditors will be able to understand it conceptually. And then we also try to provide a lot of examples. So of course we have the requirements or within the topical requirement. And then the user guide provides illustrations, examples. It really helps, for a lack of better words, like hold someone's hand to get through the process. So it's written in a way that, hopefully it's easy to understand, easy to read, and it can be used, to really help you get through the process.
Yeah, as someone that has read it myself and has built some content around it, you guys did a great job. You should be very proud of it. Anybody listening to this, I highly recommend that you review it. One of the things that kind of strikes me while reading it, I know, I think it's great for hands-on, but I know there's a lot of internal audit functions out there that in developing the system, they have a tendency to outsource, which is, completely necessary. But for internal audit functions that do outsource their cyber audit functions, how do you recommend that they work to conform to the topical requirement?
Yeah, that's a question, Logan, that we're asked quite frequently. At the end of the day, under the IPPF, it's still the chief audit executive's responsibility to ensure conformance with the topical requirement. So that responsibility still resides with the CAE. But in terms of, who's actually helping do the work, that's certainly something that, internal audit functions can reach out to outsource providers, people who maybe focus more on IT audit. So that's definitely an acceptable way to go about it. However, it's just important to be sure that it's understood the chief audit executive is responsible for making sure that happens, reviewing what they do, the work that's performed if it's outsourced. No different than if another piece of their internal audit function was outsourced to someone else. Just making sure that it's clearly known that the chief audit executive at the end of the day owns the conformance piece of the topical requirement. So they can have people assist them with it, but at the end of the day, they're the ones who are responsible for it.
One of the most useful aspects of it that I found when I was reading it is the framework references listed in the back of the appendix. I think it's something any CAE should probably print out for reference. Can you tell me a little bit about these references and kind of how that was put together?
Yeah. So cybersecurity, it's a very broad topic. I mean, it touches so many things. I think it would be pretty difficult to come up with, a lot of business processes that don't have some aspect of cyber. So that was certainly something we had to keep in mind, that it touches so many things. But I think the good thing about cybersecurity is it's been around for a long time. And so there are a lot of frameworks that have been out there for a while that are widely adopted across the globe. And we really tried to focus on some of those that we thought were the most appropriate, the most applicable for internal auditors. So we chose two of the NIST frameworks, which is 800-53, and in particular the cybersecurity framework, and then COBIT 2019 from ISACA as well. We got a lot of input, not just from North America, but from the globe, that those are frameworks that are widely used. A lot of organizations use those. And so we did a cross-reference or a mapping between the topical requirement specifics. So each requirement, we mapped those to what organizations might already be using under those frameworks from NIST and COBIT. And there are other frameworks that are out there. Certainly, we weren't going to map it to everything. But like I said, the number one thing was to be sure that we identified relevant frameworks, kind of tried and tested, that are out there that have been around for a while. And then also we tried to look at ones that wouldn't present an additional cost to members. So those NIST frameworks, the ISACA, COBIT framework, those are all free of charge, so it wouldn't result in our members or practitioners incurring additional costs. There are other frameworks that are out there, like some from ISO, that are really good as well, but those have some costs associated with them. So,
yeah. This is true not just for the frameworks themselves, but also for the cybersecurity risk landscape, that it continually is evolving, right? Every single day, there's something new, ongoing. It's always something internal auditors have to kind of keep up on. And I know this is kind of referred to in the topical requirement as well. So how often are the topical requirements going to be updated as we try to keep up with this landscape?
Yeah, certainly cybersecurity, it has emerging aspects and things that are changing. So that is true. However, I would say that the way this is written, Logan, is more from a baseline standpoint. So
Right.
really we tried to establish, the minimum requirements that an internal auditor would look at. So that's not to say that those baseline items might change over time, but we feel like they're written in a very foundational manner. So we think we accomplished that. Now, that's not to say that things could change, or like I said, there's maybe some emerging risk, or you think about how artificial intelligence has grown so much over the past couple years. So, as things change like that, we certainly want to be sure that we're thinking about those and that this topical requirement remains relevant. So, the what we're planning to do, or I'd say next steps on this, is to on an annual basis take a look at the topical requirements, make sure that it's still relevant, look to see what the risk landscape looks like, to see, like I said, if there's anything emerging out there that we need to include in terms of updating that baseline. And then we talked about other frameworks that we've referenced. I mean, certainly if those frameworks underwent pretty significant changes, we'd want to be sure that we keep that mapping up to date, and so it's as easy to use as possible for practitioners. So to summarize, we'll look at it on an annual basis, and we'll make changes as we need to.
Are these frameworks updated on a kind of a regular timetable, or do they kind of come when they come? Do you know, is this something that we need to keep in mind anytime soon?
Yeah, I think it just varies based on the organization. So, like ISACA, for example, they have COVID 2019. So, it's been
It's
out
quite a
for a few
while.
years. Yeah, I would anticipate, in the next few years, they'll probably update it, but that's, I don't have any kind of insider information. That's just my guess based on how they refresh their frameworks. Same with NIST. NIST will sometimes do, a lighter refresh or a lighter update, or sometimes they'll do, a completely different version. So it's hard to say what happens, but I think they kind of go through the same process that we do at the IA. They take a look, they make sure that they're scanning the environment, and that they're staying up to date as possible, because so many people rely on this guidance.
On to kind of a next topic that I have here. I do one of the points that we kind of bring up in the requirements that's important to note that we highlight in bold. The release date, I mean, the implementation date rather, is February 2026. I know that is time. There is time to making adjustments that are needed, but also it's coming sooner rather than later. It's like Christmas. Before you know it, it's here. As we're approaching that date, what are some recommendations that you personally would give to internal auditors as we're going up and reaching that date?
From a chief audit executive standpoint, go ahead and start having those conversations. Talk to your audit committee, talk to your board, whoever provides the governance and you report to. Have those discussions. Also, I think it's good to talk to management as well. As you meet with your IT department and your leaders, have responsibility for cyber-related processes, just to make sure that they're aware and that there's an understanding. I mean, we don't want to wait till the end and then management or the audit committee feel like, you should have communicated this back a few months ago. So I think having those discussions early in the process from a chief audit executive makes sense. I think from if you're just internal audit, working as a staff person or maybe as a manager within your function, I think just making sure that you've read through and you know what the requirements entail. So just being very familiar with it, being able to be a resource to your internal audit function and understand what those requirements include. And I think going through that user guide, reading through that, making sure that you're aware and up to date with some of those examples that can help you demonstrate conformance, that would be a very valuable thing as an internal audit function that anyone could do. So it's not just the chief audit executive. I think that internal auditors, various roles can make sure that they've done their homework and be sure that they're as prepared as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important to kind of emphasize, the IEA that, we, beyond just hearing from us on a podcast, we offer real variety of resources to help all of our members along that way. Are there any resources the IIA offers to assist in this task that you can cite off your head?
Yeah, another great question, Logan. If you just go to our website and just search, and you just search for cybersecurity, if you just type in those words, I feel like we have revamped our website, and you get a lot of really good results. So that's a good place to start. Some specific things that I would encourage people to do is we have some G tags that are out there. We have cybersecurity G tags that have been updated with the most recent standards. So those are available as well. That's a good place to look. But we have, other resources as well. I mean, I think there are other podcasts. There's a webinar that we did the day after the cybersecurity topical requirement was released. So I think that could be a good place to start as well. And then just looking at the topical requirements section of our website. So it's under standards. And if you go there and you go to the cybersecurity one, you'll be able to, of course, gain access to the topical requirement and the user guide. There's also frequently asked questions on there. So maybe some of the things that your organization, that your internal audit function is thinking about, they might be already listed there, and we'll update that section as well. But there's a lot of great information out there, but the G tags, our website, and some of those resources are really going to be helpful, I think.
And to add to that, specifically for our Auditors Leader Network members, I'd also like to point them to executive knowledge brief that we released based on feedback that we have received from CAEs that we've talked to about strategies that they're implementing regarding the new topical requirements. And also the new service that Audit Leaders Network has for Ask the Expert, where if they have any questions about the requirement, they can reach out to us directly and we will give them kind of a detailed response based on their personal situation. I think that's two avenues that we can travel down as well. Before we're out of time, is there anything else that you'd like to mention or talk about?
No, I mean, I think just doing something different with the IPPF. This is the first time we have launched a topical requirement, and we're planning to launch more in the future coming up. And I think there's going through the process of just understanding what it entails and why we're doing it, and really trying to raise the level of assurance that we provide as internal auditors. Just getting everyone comfortable with it and making sure that they're aware, they have good information, and that they're prepared as possible. I mean, we knew this first one we'd have some of that, so I think once we get through this first one on cybersecurity, and it's been out there a while, I think hopefully the next ones that we release, at least people will be familiar with the concept and what we're trying to do. And I think the ones that come after cybersecurity hopefully will be a little easier to manage and prepare for.
Yeah, I know probably initially if you see the topical requirements coming, I think the first thought, wow, this is a whole lot of new conformance related things that we need to keep up with and things. But I think as people kind of get comfortable with the idea and the concept, I think people are going to realize that what this is really doing, it's raising the bar for internal audit functions everywhere. And I think that raising that baseline is really going to go a long way toward kind of ensuring the future of the profession.
Yeah, agreed.
That is all I have for you today. I think we kind of covered a lot of ground. I hope anybody listening, please look at our other resources. Please review the topical requirement as much as you can and, kind of get understanding of it and development of it. George, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Okay, Logan, thanks for having me.
To learn more about the IIA Cybersecurity Topical Requirement and how some of the world's top internal audit leaders are implementing it, be sure to check out the Audit Leaders Network's latest Executive Knowledge Brief, the Cybersecurity Topical Requirement in Practice. Executive Knowledge Briefs are only available for Audit Leaders Network members. So if you're not a member, check out the many benefits of joining today by using the link in the show notes. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and rate us. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also catch other episodes on YouTube or at the IIA.org. That's THEIIA.org.